big game is coming up this weekend, and no matter who you're rooting for, we want to make sure that your watch party is as safe as possible. So joining me now with tips on staying safe on this Super Sunday is Dave Morales from the Firefighters Association of the State of New York. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Chelsea.
Of course. Alrighty, obviously we're coming up on the big weekend. So tell us, what are some of the biggest dangers from years past that we've seen on weekends like this?
Well, you're having a big party, having a lot of people over, cooking. You're in the kitchen. There's a lot going on. The number one thing we like to talk about is don't be too distracted while you're cooking the meal for the game. So you've got people everywhere. You're getting things ready. You're cleaning beforehand. You're entertaining your guests. We want you to stay in the kitchen while you're cooking. You don't want to be leaving any fires unattended. So you're going, to schmooze, maybe things like that. Leave that to somebody else, or trust somebody else, an adult, not a child, to continue cooking. That's the big thing, is distracted cooking.
Absolutely. So what are other ways that people can make sure, obviously paying attention, right? That's the biggest one, staying present while you're cooking. But what are some other safety tips that you have when people are cooking and making those snacks?
You want to have a clean surface that you're working with. You don't want to have too many things nearby, napkins or yourself, your loose clothing, things like that. Have it clean, degreased, ready to go, anything that'll catch. If you're cooking, you want to have your pot, the handles facing in. You don't want it out so you can accidentally bump it or anything like that. That's a big one.
Okay.
See. And always have either an extinguisher or the lid of your pot or pan, because if you were to have a flare up with a grease fire, you're going to want to take that cover and snuff out that fire, deprive it of oxygen if you can.
Okay, makes sense. Great tips there. What about for people that are going to be having kids running around while they're cooking?
You don't want to have kids handling that cooking under any circumstance, any kind of fire, any kind of cooking or recreational fire. You're going to want to be there when they're in the kitchen. Don't let children be in there unattended. Don't let them play with the knobs. Always a good idea if you have young ones at home. I've got an 11-month-old at home myself. You want to have those safety knobs so they can't accidentally turn on a burner.
Yes, okay. Now when it comes to outlet safety, what should people keep in mind?
Always have outlet covers, especially for the young ones. Make sure that there's nothing that can be pulled, any frayed wires, so anything that you're pulling out, make sure that the wires themselves are intact. If you're not using an outlet, just put one of those covers on right there. You want to keep your kids safe. You want to keep an eye on them. Don't leave them unattended crawling around the house, or there's potentially open outlets for them to get access to.
And what is the safe way? Because some people might be having large watch parties and be trying to get as many TVs into a room as possible, which is, extension cords and all these different things everywhere. What advice do you have for that?
The big thing is you just don't want to overload any of your circuits. And another big thing I would mention on top of that, not necessarily the TVs, but space heaters. If you have a space heater, maybe you live in an old house or you're watching in a garage, you're going to want to plug that directly into the wall. You cannot plug a space heater or any kind of heating device into a surge protector or a power strip. They're not designed to handle that electrical load. We have a lot of fires that start because of overloaded systems in a surge protector because a space heater was plugged in. Plug it directly into the wall.
Okay. Now, if someone is actually going to be braving the colds, people love their barbecue.
It's Western New York.
It's Western New York. You feel like you can handle it. Well, what tips do you have for barbecuing?
Obviously, especially with the cold temperatures this weekend, listening to Mike Syka, hearing what's coming on, you're going to want to limit your exposure and your time outside. So if you go outside to barbecue, make sure you're bundling up properly. Make sure you have proper gloves. You're taking care of all of your extremities. And if you are barbecuing, don't do it in your garage. Do it properly outside. Don't do it up against your house, so that way you can open the door and kind of maybe do it real quickly. You want to keep it at least 10 feet or further away from the house, because God forbid something were to happen in the side of your house or to catch on fire or worse.
Right. Okay. Now, you are always full of good safety tips, especially during big holidays or events, and you have tons more. Where can our viewers go for more safety tips from FASNY?
Yeah, FASNY's website. You can go check it out. They have a lot of information. Anytime there's a new season that comes up, whether it's cold weather months, warm weather months, they like to keep things updated, and that's a good place to go to get information.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for coming in, sharing more. We want our viewers to have safe and enjoy watching the game, even though we wish someone else was playing in the game.
We don't want to come see you, but we will if we have to.
Right, okay. Well, listen, remember, keep an eye on your kitchen while cooking and set a timer so that snacks don't turn into smoke alarms. Keep a kid and clutter-free zone around hot surfaces. Don't overload your outlets and power strips with too many plugs, and keep your outdoor cooking outside. Following these safety tips to have a hazard-free game and watch party. Thanks again for coming in, Dave.
Thanks for having me.